Word on the street is that Justin Baldoni's team is planning an explosive fight back that will shock everyone. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. I've been waiting for a response from Team Justin as so many of you tuned into our last big breakdown of what's happening between Justin and Blake Lively. I urge you to go check out that video so you can be fully up to date on some of the players we're talking about, the PR machine. I'm so happy because got Ari herself, little Miss Jacob is here. How you doing, Ari?
I'm doing great. Good to see you.
It's been too long, you guys. She wrote an amazing thread. I want to plug it early. You can go check her out. Ariadne Jacob over, Little Miss Jacob over on X. But this thread blew up for you. I loved it. Really good insight on this. And you actually have been part of this PR machine. You sued one of these big agencies and Taylor Lorenz over at the, she was at the New York Times, Washington Post, etc. So you have a lot of experience in this. So you brought some really fascinating insight. I'm excited to hear your updates and your thoughts. Before we get there, let me just recap sort of where we are now with the latest news. And then I want to get your thoughts. So this is coming in from the Daily Mail. It should be noted, though, the Daily Mail clearly is a friendly of Team Justin. It's mentioned in Blake's lawsuit numerous times as we can get to the Daily Mail. So this is clearly a sort of, the other side's sort of argument is being clearly played out in the Daily Mail. And inside the Daily Mail, they do reveal that here, some of the updates that they're sort of teasing after their recap is that but Baldoni's team is not giving up without a fight. As soon as the courts reopen after New Year's on Thursday, an explosive counter lawsuit will be filed. His business partner, blah, blah, blah. This will say that it's Lively's side who are responsible for the smears against Baldoni. I still don't know how to say his name. Whatever. We were just arguing. But rather than the other way around and claim that apparently damning emails, texts, and WhatsApp messages from Baldoni's publicists have been presented in a way that changes their meaning. The counterclaim will also allege that Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, one of the Hollywood's most influential women, tried to smear Baldoni by planning stories with numerous news organizations. The nub of the legal action, which Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, has spent the past few days preparing, is that Lively's complaint, unusually submitted to the California Civil Rights Department. I would say cleverly submitted, actually. It was kind of a smart way that she gets to put this out and have a little bit more protection. But not really usual, but something a powerful Hollywood player and very expensive lawyers would know how to do very delicately. They say, though, rather than actually filing this in the court, it's a ploy to rebuild her public image. It will be claimed that an admittedly poor working relationship with Baldoni and others in a misconceived marketing strategy to sell a movie about DV to make more suitable as a girls' night out became a social media frenzy in which millions of people turned detective to delve into the event, the issue, the beef between Lively and Baldoni. Now, they say the relationship was no secret. I love how they're already coining it the Blake Lash, which grew online on its own. They go on also interesting because now we're seeing, Ari, this is like clearly like Justin's team trying to sort of throw Blake more under the bus than I'm sure he's going to do himself. But a source, always a source, someone on Justin's side, a source who was involved in the situation tells me, do you seriously think that Blake Lively, married to one of the most powerful men in town and represented by one of the most powerful publicists, is going to sit meekly by if she is SH'd on a film set and then hang on for 4 more months after the film's release before making a complaint? It makes no sense. Look, they never got on. Justin is very spiritual and kind of an unusual person. He is what you might call hippy-dippy. He thinks he can talk to dead people. Would he have said that he had spoken to Blake's dead father? Yes. Did he harass her? He says not. They rubbed each other the wrong way. She has taken bits of conversations which they had. He was trying to be friendly when they were friendly and weaponized them. Now, they also make it clear, and this has always sort of been my stance, is Blake Lively a diva? Is Justin Baldoni a creep? Or could both things be true? Probably that. It's probably both, guys. And so that's where we sort of are standing on things as these updates come in. Now, Deadline did follow up a bit more and called out the same thing. It should be noted, Daily Mail's in there sort of friendly, but also spoke to the Sloan woman in a statement. She said, just so you guys have the full story, Vision PR Sloan offered a different perspective. I was contacted on August 11th by Sarah Nathan, Melissa Nathan, the crisis PR expert who also repped Johnny, forwarding an anonymous tip that Page Six received regarding allegations of HR complaints in the set of It Ends With Us, noting that the New York Post media connection by Baldoni's team ran by crisis PR Melissa Nathan. Sarah's sister. After that, I was contacted by various press outlets asking about allegations of HR complaints. When contacted, I responded to press questions by referring them to Wayfair or Sony for information regarding HR complaints. It was clear that Mr. Baldoni and his Wayfair associates are suggesting that I originated press stories about HR complaints, which is false. Please read Miss Lively's complaint and the complaint filed by Jones' work and Stephanie Jones, which provides the details. The statement that she provided was not put into the Daily Mail, which is a bad look. They should have put her statements. I really don't like when people don't full that. But that's where we sort of stand. And now Baldoni's lawyer, it's the last quote I have, and then I want to go over to you, Ari. His most recent statement, I am not going to speak as to when or how many lawsuits we're filing, but when filing our first lawsuit, it is going to shock everyone who has been manipulated into believing a demonstrably false narrative. It will be supported by real evidence and tell the true story. In over 30 years of practicing, I have never seen this level of unethical behavior unintentionally fueled through media manipulation. It reminds me of what NBC tried to do to Megyn Kelly and Gabrielle Union, and we all know how they ended up. Stand by. So that's where we stand, Ari. Now, I want to get your thoughts because also sort of important to see they make you buy this article, which they shouldn't. Stephanie Jones, a huge, another big player. Keep that in mind. She's now suing Justin as well. We'll get more on that. But these are all sort of the power players. Even Puck Newsletter, which is a pretty good insight, coming in and raising the questions as to why did the New York Times sit on this for so long? Because they clearly did. And then as soon as TMZ got wind of something, boom, a whole huge article with well-researched suddenly drops. A lot of this sort of clearly, is this really a legal thing or is this a PR battle for Blake Lively? I guess I want to start there. Ari, what is your takeaway in watching this as Hollywood's sort of seedy PR underbelly is exposed?
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, I have inside experience and lived experience in this world. And when I was attacked by the New York Times, I really had no idea what all of these types of people are capable of, including the lawyers, the people working behind the scenes. Usually the PR people want to stay out of the story. You'll see that, their bread and butter really relies on their relationships with these journalists. And I think what's interesting is we're entering this like new era where now the publicists have to sort of change their tactics, right? Because they have to deal with people like you and I, right? That are on social media and whatnot. And so they do have to evolve, but a lot of times the publications and everybody, they all sort of protect each other. But anyway, I think what's very interesting is, the fact that the New York Times came out with this article, I absolutely knew right away. I mean, when something is filed in like this is not even a lawsuit. People are kind of conflating the things because it's confusing, right? It's like, okay, well, I see a filing that looks like a lawsuit, but it's not an actual lawsuit yet. But they had the article ready to go. And the New York Times they strategically had this person, I think her name is Megan Twohey, that, correct me if I'm wrong, but she's
big in the Weinstein case. Yeah.
Big in the Weinstein case. So what's interesting is I'm friends with Rose McGowan, and I was pretty sure, and I confirmed with Rose, like she does not like that writer. And a lot of people would say, well, she's the Weinstein person. Like, how could she not like her? But I'm pretty sure what Rose's thing is like they all benefited. I think they got like a Pulitzer Prize for that. Yep. And they sort of left Rose in the dust. Rose wasn't able to, not that she wanted to monetize the story, but she felt like they really monetized her story without really, I think that even in like the movie that they made, they didn't use Rose. They used somebody that had a voice similar to her. So anyway, a lot of these people are obviously doing this because it's for their career. And, in some ways you can say, okay, that makes sense. But just because the New York Times did the Weinstein story and they're doing this story does not mean that they're telling the truth. Again, they wrote an article about me that was completely untrue, and there was like 50 things in there that were untrue. But really, the only thing that had legal standing was one word in the huge article. So, I think it's important to be nuanced about these things. And like when you see, for example, somebody saying, "Okay, she leaked or she planted a story." just remember that they're using words to sort of manipulate you. For example, they could say she seeded a story, or she gave somebody an exclusive on a story. How is that different from she planted a story? I mean, is it just that they want you to change the perspective, or is there actually legal standing to what they're saying?
Well, you speaking of words, like you made a very good point in your thread, which I urge you guys to go check out and follow her, because a publicist texts Baldoni, "We can bury anyone." Spicy, sure, but it's not him saying it, and the complaint doesn't tie that message back to him. Classic PR move of make it look more damning by association. Her complaint is riddled with that stuff. It's a lot of hearsay, a lot of just sort of publicists saying things, which is really their job. And there's never any actual confirmation from Justin of like, yes, destroy her. Destroying her is not enough. Like, there's never any actual juicy stuff from him. In fact, as you point out, there's the opposite, right? I'm not in love with this strategy. That could mean a lot of things. And so at the end of the day, they really did try to paint it, and it worked, because I've seen a lot of people immediately now switch and defend Blake and say, oh my God, he tricked us all. Now he may have tricked us all. He may be a fake feminist and like actually out there doing creepy stuff and not the best guy. I don't know him. I'm not here to defend the guy, because I will admit, seeing his own publicist now in texts that have been revealed basically call him out and call him lucky and a creep and the things isn't a good look for Justin's case, because again, whatever you say to someone in private, that's, pretty telling, and his own publicists don't like him. Point out the fact of things.
Let's be clear about this. Every single person in this story is a shark, is a power player,
correct,
is not naive, likely to how everything works. So look at the players. Okay, so you obviously have Lively and Reynolds and everybody that backs them. Here's something
Taylor Swift, huge players.
Taylor
yes,
Swift.
Exactly. WME.
Yes, absolutely. But everybody's sort of intertwined. So let's talk about Lively. One thing that I don't think people really got, and I think this last Puck article kind of tapped on it, was that Sony has worked with the same lawyers that are representing Lively. I thought that was interesting, because a lot of times if you have a conflict of interest, so for example, like let's say we work together, but we would want to have different lawyers even if we were working together on something, you know what I'm saying? Because your lawyer protects your own interests. So it's interesting that there was no conflict with Lively and Sony's lawyers, because if they have the same lawyers. So the other thing was, I think that they came out in support of Lively. Sony
did. Yeah.
And so, did Sony have anything to do with this? Why are they not neutral to it? They obviously didn't get sued. They are the distributor of the film. The other thing that's interesting is that Lively was attacked because of the way she promoted the film. But if you look at some of the other actors, I think his name's Hassan Minaj, the comedian, he also posted on Instagram saying, come with your best friends or something like that. Come with your friends to see the movie. And so if Lively was following the marketing plan that Sony gave them, then, that was largely probably Sony's direction or directive. So for people to attack Lively for essentially following the directive from the studio, maybe that was a bit unfair. And maybe Sony said, okay, well, Baldoni's not playing ball here. He's doing this DV thing. And I don't know if genuinely, Baldoni wanted the film to be supportive of the DV stuff. I mean, it seems from his career that he is sort of advocating all these ways. I think he did another movie about people ending or, coming to like the end of their lives or something like that. Anyway.
His stuff has messages. Yes. He tries to make it more important. Yeah.
And maybe, Sony didn't want that. I don't know what the details are there, but
but not to interrupt, but it's a good question, because I'm wrestling with it too. Like, did he actually want that all along? Can we prove that? Or was he manipulating the media because he realized, crap, everyone's getting a bad rap, sort of, because Justin did in the beginning, as the lawsuit shows, he was playing along as well, in which case Sony should be blamed more than anybody else is. But was Justin then sort of realizing and reading the chatter, oh man, the audience doesn't like this, I'm going to pivot so I look like the better person? That's where I'm confused. What do you think?
Well, and here's the other thing. People don't want to fight with the New York Times. They don't want to fight with Sony, right? If you're an actor, the
how
last
hard it is to
person
do
you
those
want
lawsuits, yeah.
The last person you want to fight with is Sony. And so when people are saying, well, everybody jumped ship to Lively side, well, if behind the scenes everybody knows that Sony and Lively are in step, then why in the world would you go against Sony in the world of entertainment if you're an actor, right? That's just something to consider. And I don't necessarily, when I dealt with this media kind of attack, I, some people left my company and I didn't really blame them because at that point it's like, I understand they have careers. Like, I don't think it's right for them to have smeared me, like piled on when they knew the things were false. But if somebody's quietly kind of steps out and is like, I don't want to, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yes.
understandable because that's their livelihood and likely what they work their whole careers to do. So,
And
but
if you're confused about her story, you can go check it out on X. We've also interviewed Ari before and talked about it. Go look up our previous videos about Taylor Lenz, etc. You'll learn more. But yeah, you know a lot about this. And because I want to try to not keep this too long, I want to spotlight another thing you pointed out, which was I tried to do as well. And it's hard because you don't want to be like defending harasser if he really was doing it. But again, these lawsuits are more PR statements in defense of the person, right, than the facts. And a lot of people don't want to, and it's not a lawsuit, it's a complaint. It's the other thing a lot of people are saying. And you make a good really point about pointing out this sort of how this is all storytelling. Past harassment in California is a pattern of unwelcome behavior with intent to harm. And in each instance she puts, it stops. Like each instance kind of different is what's really noticeable to me about it, and could have been a misunderstanding of sort of uncomfortable a lot of it isn't appropriate, I will say. It isn't appropriate, but the line of whether it's inappropriate or harassment is really where things are going to be important. Right. Intent versus perception, singleness and severity. You point out a lot of what the legal definitions are, and you bring up the breastfeeding as an example of like, yeah, this is common in Hollywood. A lot of people just do it with people out. People are used to it. Was that what was happening? Was this a deliberate invasion of privacy or just bad timing? Intent matters. You made a very good point about how a lot of women aren't ashamed of that and know I got to keep doing my job and I'm going to keep doing it. And was he trying to like, look, we got to get this going and not looking at that and not caring about that? It's very possible, but she may have felt another way. You also go on and sort of pointing about the kissing and how, the authenticity of the scene and how you pointed out, here it was the Mindy Kaling was like applauded when she was out there talking about how she went and did something against Lee Pace without consent. This happens all the time in Hollywood. Doesn't mean it's good, but it doesn't mean it's harassment. Intent matters, and she almost like knew what she was doing was wrong and continued to do it. No one cared at all. No one made a big stink about it. Anyway, you make a good point about how he's talked about his previous addictions, which he talks out loud openly, and how all these stories could have more intent behind them than she's alleging in the complaint. Can you sort of reiterate that?
Yeah, the two biggest things that I found that I posted in that thread that were interesting to me, or sort of like a red flag, were number one, the claim that he hired his best friend to play the OBGYN in the birthing scene, and that somehow that was highly inappropriate. And I went and looked up that actor. He has a master's from UCLA in acting. He has a bunch of credits for other shows and movies. So it's like, who cares that he was the best friend? It's not like he wasn't. He has a master's from UCLA in acting. Come on. I mean, this guy was in other shows and films. Who cares that it was the best friend? I mean, it's Baldoni's.
Yeah, was he inappropriate on set? Was he creepy on set? Like, I don't understand it either.
They just said that why did they hire him is basically at least what I understood in the complaint. The other thing was the talking to dead people. That also raised a red flag because it's like, what? How is that harassment? Like, even if it bothers somebody that you talked about their late father, I mean, that just was a big red flag. I don't know. I don't know how that constitutes harassment. I mean, you could certainly be offended by something, but just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that it's illegal. And, there's a lot of different stories about that in the news. And just because somebody accuses you of harassment or whatever doesn't mean it's true. And we just have to remember that this is a complaint. Another reason why I have some experience with this was that when they were getting to write the negative piece about me in the New York Times, one of my former clients, she filed a complaint to the California Labor Board, saying that I breached that I didn't have a talent agency license and that I represented her illegally because I didn't have a talent agency license. Now, that sounds really bad, right? Like when somebody's reading that, they're like, oh, that sounds bad. You don't have a talent agency license. But what they don't like, I did have a talent agency license actually, but I didn't even need one because you only need a talent agency license when you're representing actors and movie stars and musicians and things of the like. I was working with TikTok stars on their own platforms. And so, anyway, there was a lot of nuanced things, but you can still file a claim. And the thing is, by the time that I was ready to go to court over it, they said, okay, let's just drop it. And we left both ways amicably. So I don't know. Could this complaint by Lively have been to sort of seed a story and make Baldoni look bad? Are they going to go through 100 all the way with a lawsuit? We don't know. Like they could just drop it and say, okay, the damage is done. We got what we wanted. Who knows? Or they could go through and do it. But one thing I wanted to bring up was the thing in this latest article that you sent me, that he brings up Gabrielle Union and Megyn Kelly. And so I did some research on this. If you're wondering why he said, I think he said like, you saw how it ended up
What
with
NBC
Gabrielle.
tried to do Megyn Kelly and Gabrielle Union. Yeah, there was yeah, I do remember the Gabrielle Union one. And I mean, I know what happened to Megyn Kelly, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, yeah. So if you want to explain it, but I didn't know really the details of the Gabrielle Union one. It was basically that in 2019, she served as a judge on NBC's America's Got Talent. And she raised concerns about a toxic work environment, citing instances of racism and inappropriate behavior on set. And anyway, it turned out that so it says Union reported specific incidents, including racially insensitive remarks, critiques about her hairstyles. She also objected to a racially insensitive joke made by a guest on the show. And Union's contract was not renewed, which she alleged was retaliation for voicing her concerns. So in response, she filed a harassment and discrimination complaint, and she was represented by Brian Friedman, which is Baldoni's attorney as well.
And she won, right?
Well, she settled the dispute. They had a settlement that the amount was not publicly disclosed, but I'm assuming Friedman feels he won that case, on her behalf. Yep. And the other thing was that I know for a fact that when Megyn Kelly left NBC, she talks about that I believe she said there was somebody at NBC who was seeding very negative stories about her, that was leaking things to the press. That this was after Megyn Kelly had something about blackface or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, yeah.
So anyway, NBC canceled the Megyn Kelly Today show, and Kelly's contract with NBC was terminated, and she reportedly received the full payment from her $69 million contract, thanks to Brian Friedman. So if you're ever wondering, if Megyn Kelly a lot of times either like aligns with Brian Friedman's stance on cases that he's taking, or she just doesn't talk negative about his clients. Like, for example,
when you make $69 million from your lawyer, I'm sure that it makes you a little biased.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I don't know if it's bias or like, for example, Megyn
loyalty.
Kelly,
I don't know. Yeah,
she does not like Taylor Lorenz, the woman who wrote the article about me, and she always
who does.
She always trashes Lorenz. But what's so funny is she never covered my case. Why is that? Maybe it's because I sued United Talent Agency and Brian Friedman represented UTA. Who knows? I don't know. But I always thought that was interesting. I'm like, how is it that Megyn Kelly never talked about
hates Taylor, but didn't want to mention the whole. It just proves how complicated it all. It's a power structure. It is, and that's why this case is much more complicated. Right. And I appreciate your insight because of your experience. You guys get a little bit more of like, this is more complicated than just picking a side, and most likely both sides are in the wrong.
Oh, and yeah, don't even get me started on the publicists. The publicists all have. So Stephanie Jones, she was the one that got subpoenaed or whatever, but seemed to gladly give over the other person's text messages. And she's married to a partner at WME, which is a very big deal. Those people are very powerful, the talent agents in Hollywood, and I think she represented Jeff Bezos and all these people. Then you talk about Lively's PR. She represented Lindsay Lohan and Pete Davidson and fired them both as clients because they were too much of a hot mess, I guess. So she's a pretty cutthroat publicist as well, Lively's side. And then Friedman, I think you read that he said that this is like one of the most egregious cases of, people seeding information. That's rich coming from Brian Friedman, who I think is very well versed on this world of, smearing people. And what's interesting, by the way, and this is kind of an insight I wanted to share because a lot of people, um, I was surprised when this happened, is when I went to one of the lawyers I was working with. They recommended that I hire a crisis PR person when the whole New York Times story happened. They charge you $20,000 up front. And a lot of times, well, in this particular case, I did not hire the crisis PR firm directly. I paid the law firm to hire them. And I guess I don't know if that like covers you so that like it's attorney-client privilege. So there's no like paper trail between you and the crisis PR. And then a lot of our conversations happened in the lawyer's office with the crisis PR and the attorney. So all of that is privileged and doesn't get to be leaked. So I don't know if maybe this Melissa Nathan or this Jennifer Abel was maybe a little bit novice and they kind of got very, messy with their text messages. Like, had they not done that, and they, not to say that any of this is ethical or that I believe that it's right. I'm glad that it's shining some light on sort of what happens, but it is interesting that sort of these newbie girls that were starting their own thing, also with Scooter Braun, who's no who's no novice in this world. But it just is interesting how they kind of maybe had a misstep. And then talking bad about your client, sure, that's bad. But I mean, I could tell you I had some rough days with some of those TikTok kids when they were getting into trouble. And I don't know. I don't know if I would want to see my texts about them either.
Yeah,
even though
but texts get revealed. There's a lot to it. One, it reveals a lot. But I mean, they're claiming it's subpoena. I don't buy it. This was clearly, in my opinion, it was so clearly Stephanie Jones trying to destroy her enemies. And so that's really what it looks like to me. And she gave it up so quickly, which she didn't need to do so fast. She could have, I'm sure, hired an attorney and fought this because even Justin wasn't. I'd love to see Blake's texts. I mean, it's ridiculous when that happens. In the Johnny and Amber case, Johnny's text miraculously got leaked and Amber's wouldn't give hers up. And it's like, what the heck? How is that fair? When you don't get the full conversation like that, you don't get to see both sides speaking out of turn. I'm highly skeptical.
That's why I really wonder if Blake Lively will take the complaint all the way to a lawsuit, because people don't understand this a lot of times, is like in a lawsuit, both sides have to give discovery. Both sides have to give their text messages. So if Lively ever texted, Ryan Reynolds,
this will never go to
negative,
lawsuit. Like this will never go to a lawsuit.
I agree. And if it would take, years and years. We might be over it by then. So
this is all damage control from both sides. They're both going to countersue. It's all there's going to be multiple lawsuits. And then over time, settlements happen and the lawyers will get rich.
Friedman did accuse, I think he did in the Puck thing, he accuses Sony of seeding negative articles. I believe that's what he said. So
it's interesting because I say that they'll settle. But honestly, Justin's kind of screwed. His stuff's already out. Everything's been exposed. There is a part of this where he might say, F it, go all the way. Let's now get her stuff. And really spitefully try to go for it, right?
Big billionaire backer, right? And I don't know if that's true. They said, I think in the complaint, that there was a backer that said, like, I'm going to take her down.
He may not, exactly. I guess you're right. He may not want to have his stuff revealed. It's always more than just the person. But nobody likes the dirty secrets coming out.
If they have somebody with interests against Lively that has a ton of money, then maybe, Baldoni might say, hey, let's go all the way with it. Then I'll do a movie about what happened to me. I'll do a movie about cancel culture. Who knows? Who knows what he's going to get into next? But, at this point, he might say, let's just go all the way with it. Yeah,
we've been talking way too long. 30 minutes. Oh my God. I don't know. I make sure to go follow. We can do this all day. Make sure you go follow Ariana Jacob, Little Miss Jacob over on X. Follow her. There's a lot of other links you can go to support her. Follow the thread. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for the insight. There you go, updates. We will have more throughout the week and upcoming if they do file a suit. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for all alerts, smash the thumbs up as well. Leave your comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this special Sunday video. We got big news tomorrow. Make sure you check it, share it, watch it. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.